So to get started, the first thing I did was make the playable character, and I won't really go into too much detail on how I did this because it's mainly just boring coding. But after that, I created the map, and this was basically just a foundation that I was going to build off of. After I was finished with that, I fixed the issue of the player just like walking through things by adding collisions to everything in the environment. So the player could walk into them and collide with them, and it just added more realism. After I finished up with the collisions, I improved the movement system by adding the diagonal movement that you see in the clip, and I also added a little main menu with the play and quit buttons, things like that. It's also worth mentioning what I had planned for the story at this point. It wasn't really anything too complicated. You're basically just some knight in some like deserted town that's been overrun by skeletons, and it's your job to save the town by defeating the skeletons. Then I started to work on the final map. I had a picture at the end so you can see what it looked like when I was done. Anyway, with the map done, I changed how the player looked and started work on an enemy. Right now, all I really had was this little skeleton that would follow you around as long as you're in his detection area, which is a big blue circle that's surrounding him. I also made it so the skeleton plays the appropriate animation depending on which way he's facing. This took me too much time. Anyway, then I started work on the combat system. I basically made it so if you stand near the skeleton for too long, then you eventually die. These last two clips are just me finishing up the combat system. In the first one, I added health bars. I also gave the player the ability to attack the enemy. I think it takes 3 hits to destroy one skeleton. And in the second one, I made the skeletons spawn repeatedly from one specific point on the map. And after that, the game was basically done. All I really did, which I didn't record, was add some main menus, music, like difficulty settings, and then I just added 2 possible endings you can get. There's a good ending, and then there's a bad ending. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention. So there's a timer going off above the player's head, if you notice that in the clip right now. And the whole goal of the game is to survive until that timer hits 0 and you win, but if you lose to the skeletons before it hits 0, then you lose. So now for the finished gameplay. First thing you see, of course, is a main menu. Click play and you get 3 difficulties. I chose to showcase on hard difficulty for this one. And I sped up the gameplay a ton, obviously, just to speed it up. But here you'll see one of the endings when you get overrun by the skeletons. And here we have it, the bad ending. You lost, you were overrun by the skellies and then ceased to exist. And of course, had to include the tip, just get better. Now if we go back to the main menu, and this time probably going to select easy difficulty, that was way too hard last time. Okay, now obviously I'm going to speed up the gameplay, and tides have turned. I'm actually winning against the skeletons this time. And one thing I do admit is the combat system is not the most intuitive thing in the world, obviously. There's not that much I could do with it because I'm just a beginner. Here we have it. Congratulations, you were able to defeat the skellies and save the town. The good ending. And with that, the story is over. But is it? Will there ever be a sequel?